and cross-analyzed against what was associated with a scientific confirmation that it originated in a Wuhan seafood market. And the grant proposal submitted to the federal government titled Gain of Function Research. Hey, race your dose of reality check for today. The ExaHealth grant submitted by Dr. Fauci to the United States federal government. At that time to Republicans, a very noteworthy evaluation. Requested funding for gain of function research, approved by Republicans. The grant proposal's description and statement of intent was described as conducting gain of function research to alter the genetic constitution of an animal pathogen known to target the animals that the virus infected in its respiratory system, designated in the grant proposal as coronavirus. The virus described in the ExaHealth grant proposal was under the designation coronavirus. The pathogen described as a coronavirus, and the grant proposal's intent described the intent to add a function to the virus designated in the grant proposal as part of the research designation. Gain of function that it did not naturally have. And with this intent, as stated in the grant, to infect a human host as the scope of the intent of the request for federal funding for the research and for the research and the creation of the gain of function pathogen to be contracted to the Wuhan Lab of Virology. This evaluation itself dictates that the Wuhan Institute of Virology conducted research and created a pathogen that was responsible for the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Based on the description of the grant proposal itself, and this specifically became the entire reason that the grant proposal and all information related to the grant proposal became an extreme issue and point of investigation. Don't believe me? Let me go ahead and cover some of the information stated in the grant proposal. Citation: ExaHealth Grant Proposal. A spaced non-profit in 2018-2019 at the Wuhan Institute of Virology Lab Institute to develop a gain of function for a virus called the coronavirus. The origin of the coronavirus. The report described studies conducted at the Wuhan Lab Institute of Virology on then, 2018. Recently collected bat coronaviruses circulating in the wild in China. The studies examined whether spike proteins, which viruses use to attach to and infect cells, could, when expressed in a previously known bat coronavirus called WIV1, bind to the human angiotensin-converting enzyme 2-cell receptor. By implementing the virus in a mouse model, to bind the enzyme which converts the virus in a mouse, to determine if it could become communicable to human beings. The designation of the chimera, genetically altered virus, created SHC014WIV1, the gain of function pathogen, created capable of being transmitted to human beings, was observed to cause mice to become sicker than those infected with the WIV1 bat coronavirus, and the fact the model could bind to a mouse model determined it was successfully altered. Because this chimera was observed to cause mice to become sicker than those infected with the WIV1 virus, or lab-created virus, the gain of function research that was eloquently stated of in the actual request for funding, it is conceptually obvious that to genetically alter a virus so that it is communicable to an entirely different species, has no potential reason for being conducted. You can't even suggest it's to do research on curing a disease or virus that isn't even communicable to human beings in the first place. Unless the Wuhan Institute of Virology was concerned with immunizing bats in the wild in China, they had absolutely no reason to suggestively study the virus in the first place. The fact the actual coronavirus, and its name is designated in the grant request for funding, sounds fishy, don't you agree? And that's your dose of reality check for today. In the next news segment I'm going to cover how Project Looking Glass and how the coronavirus vaccine are related, associated with what is designated in the now declassified details associated with Project Looking Glass by whistleblowers called the Awakening Event. Stay tuned for your next reality check. And hey, race your post-coronavirus wrap-up. Don't forget to look up Dr. Fauci, Melinda Gates and Barack Obama at the Wuhan Lab Institute of Virology 2015.